Hello and welcome to the Passionista Project. I am so honored to be here. I just want to take you all on a little journey, and I'm going to dive right into it of a little girl that was told by their mother that at birth the doctor said that she wouldn't live long. Um, this little girl was also told by their mother that they would also end up living with a developmental delay of some sort. This child then grew up, in poverty, grew up with a strict household, experienced physical, mental, and emotional abuse. And this child was African American. So growing up, um, this little girl didn't get actually taught racism, even though, she knew of, color. It wasn't anything that changed how she viewed the world. So going off to college, fast forward, in undergrad, she was the only African American child in the English course. And that Caucasian male professor basically refused to read or grade her work and actually told her that she was a pseudo intellectual. So ongoing, moving forward, this young lady now at this point um, was then navigating the world, through the eyes of her first encounter of discrimination. And again, growing up in a place where everyone looked different and it didn't matter. She went to a performing arts school, so she was pretty well versed in diversity and inclusion. And then moving on forward to the point where she went on to work, in the field that she had studied and ultimately experienced discrimination from other African American professionals, I should say. And it was something, if you guys have ever heard of like colorism, where the supervisor was fair skinned, African American, and the young lady was dark skinned, just like me. And so there were issues with this young lady having a lot of knowledge and studying profusely, almost as a sense of coping mechanism to cope with all the trauma that she had been through, everything that had gone on in her life, chronic pain from sickle cell disease, and the gamut. And so at this point, she's continuing to experience discrimination, but it's by those even within what she felt was her community. Fast forward again, um, there were times during her doctoral program, because she decided to get her doctorate. Um, and actually, if I were to back up a little bit, during the time that she then went after postmaster's degree into the workforce, she worked for a federal agency. And this young lady pretty much experienced discrimination by being purposely rated lower on her performance appraisals. And even though there was no feedback, there was nothing that was mentioned in regards to, hey, you need to improve in this area. But basically, her Caucasian male boss told her that the only reason that she rated lower was because she just couldn't be perfect. No other reason, even though there was no feedback of needs for improvement, nothing. Okay, now she's in her doctoral program because she went back because she felt maybe if I got a degree, people would treat her different. And she really wanted to be treated different, to be respected for her ideas, respected for her knowledge. And so she went back to school to work on her doctorate. And during the doctoral program, there again, the message comes up that she wasn't good enough. The Caucasian female professor at the time then told this, growing professional that she wasn't doctoral material. And it just so happens that this young lady also sat right next to that same person um, during the hooding for the doctor program, the doctoral ceremony, the hooding process, the brunch that they had. So ultimately, you have this saga of messaging that says this young African American, dark skinned young lady wasn't good enough. And in fact, the most she was good for was to be hurt and harmed. And the way to stay out of hurt and harm was to basically isolate herself and just busy herself with work, hence, all the degrees. So when it's all said and done, this history of abuse, this history of chronic pain from having sickle cell disease, and even the ongoing messages that she received in regards to discrimination and not being enough. That person in that story grew up to not only, be a doctor and lived, a fulfilling life, but actually was able to experience marriage, was able to have pretty much a miracle baby. When told that, even though she lived this long, she wouldn't have a child. But ultimately, that person is me. I am the one that went through all of that. I am an African American woman that is dark skinned, who even in my household, I am the most dark complected sibling. I have 6 sisters, and I get my dark skin tone from my dad. My mom is fair skinned, and so I'm the darkest in the bunch. And you talk about the experiences outside the household of in culture and society of the discrimination, and again told that you're not good enough. But I experienced it even in the home where I was told that I was adopted. My sisters told me I was adopted. Nowadays, as we're adults, they're like, oh my goodness, we were just playing, we loved you. But that stuck with me, that I was the darkest. And so that meant that I didn't belong. I was adopted, you know? So I've been through a lot and I consider myself African American. And the reason I consider myself African American versus saying, okay, I'm Black, is simply because I have sickle cell. So I know for a fact that my family heritage goes back to Africa, specifically the sub-Saharan area of Africa where sickle cell originally, you know, basically just came about. And it came about actually miraculously, for those that don't know, because our bodies in that region, like, we're actually blessed miraculously to be able to fight off malaria. And so in order to fight off malaria, our blood cells basically evolved to where they were sickle shaped. And for those that don't know about sickle cell, this is a great learning opportunity. You can dig into it more. But because of that, I will never get malaria. So that's the give and take of it all, the two-edged sword. But either way, dealing with chronic pain, dealing with a lot of self-doubt, self-esteem issues, and on top of that, the ongoing saga, it actually continues. I moved from Ohio and dealing with a lot of discrimination in Northern Ohio, moved to Southern Ohio, still dealing with it. So I went from Cleveland, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio. And ultimately, back in 2012, I actually experienced a malfunction of my spleen and basically had to have a splenectomy. So, with that, my ideas about life were already blunted because of the fact of having sickle cell and the different messages that I received in regards to my lifespan because of it. But ultimately, I said, you know what? I recovered just fine. I went through traumatic events, and either way, I was a fighter. Obviously, I kept fighting to beat the odds. And when it's all said and done, I moved to Los Angeles, California, in hopes that I could possibly um, basically have a life where there was a more likely chance that I'd be accepted just as I am. Funny enough, though, I then, continued on in the federal organization that I was working in. I transferred out and still experienced it from being put in harm's way to being told that as now someone that has a doctorate, most recently being told, even with my doctorate, I should consider myself the help. Yes, they said the help. And also told that when I was considering having a child, and this is where sexism comes in, experienced that as well, where I was told that I should have considered the negative impact that my career would have when I decided to have a child. And mind you, there were more people having children, and they didn't get any adverse reactions because of their pregnancies and returns to work. But basically, I was actually forced out. I was forced to step down from a position. They refused to process a position that I went through the proper channels through HR to obtain. And actually, there's some legal things going on because, again, I'm a fighter. So read in between the lines. Uh, but I just want to share my story with you all so that you can have another look deep into the layers that go into what it's like to be Black in America. Being Black isn't just being Black, it's also knowing from person to person, because I'm not the spokesperson for African Americans or Blacks. I am personally have heritage from Africa. I know that I have family that were, slaves picking cotton. My dad at one time was sent by my grandmother to his grandmother, so my great grandmother, sent to spend some time with her in Alabama, and he had to help pick cotton. So I am actually African American, even though I was born here in America. And that's how I identify. So when you talk about get to know people's story, this is that. Get to know the many layers. Just because someone is in a place that, like Los Angeles, where, you would otherwise consider them being in a progressive state or a progressive city, you never know what they're going through. And so I just want to encourage you all, when you're talking about equality and women empowerment, is to understand that, yes, I'm a woman, but I'm an African American woman first before anyone sees anything. So for those allies out there that have been fighting the fight, I thank you. For those that are wanting to be allies, to be anti-racist and not just be not racist, have these conversations, get to know the layers, and really get to a place of understanding where it's more of real cultural competence, because it's really hard to be competent on something that you still address with a broad perspective. And when I say that, I mean everyone that's Black. I want to understand the Black experience. I think it is more advantageous for you to check out the individual. So again, my name is Dr. Shanae Teran, and I am a native of Cleveland, Ohio, and I am currently practicing in my private practice, SP Consulting Group, in Los Angeles, California, where my mission is to help bring women's vision to life through mental wellness, through organizational development. That's what my doctorate is in, organizational development psychology, but also in regards to burnout, managing stress, And if the position that you're in, the industry that you're in, isn't bringing you to a place of work-life balance and finding peace, I then help with business coaching, which means I then help you transition into being your own business owner, like I had to. Even though I'm still connected with the federal agency at this time, I am, fully in my business, and I figured it out myself and built it from the ground up. So I help other women do the same. So definitely feel free to check out any resources that I may have. And I look forward to just hearing any testimonies of whether or not this presentation and this brief testimonial about my experience has helped you in any way. And definitely open to speak with any groups or individuals separately as well. So continue to have a great time during this Passionista project, and just want to wish you all well, and take care during this pandemic. It's rough out there, but there's a large and thick silver lining in the midst of it all. And I hope you all take advantage. Take care.